day, everyone. It is Monday, August 1st. Fantastic, beautiful day for me. Two of my favorite people were born on August 1st. And so here we go with the Barbara Christensen Vlogcast. And I am your host, Barbara Christensen. So you may be new to listening to me, so who am I? Well, I am a holistic coach. I've been doing business and life coaching for 2 decades. I am a certified aromatherapist, certified personal trainer. I am a nutritional therapist and an energy healer. And so I love sharing all of this passion that I have with all of you. You know, I created the Paleo-Veggie lifestyle about 6 years ago, and it has just been this bombshell that people were like, wow, I can eat vegetables, more vegetables. I can eat plants. I can base this paleo lifestyle in this way, and a lot of people use it in a manner to like detox their systems and then go back into a gentler, more sustainable way of eating. They may not stay vegan, and so that's why I talk about finding your nutritional truth, because veganism is very hard for some people depending on the chemistry of your body and your underlying genetics. So there's no judgment here, and my page, if you ever go to Facebook there, is a no judgment zone. And so if you eat meat, I'm not going to let anyone make horrible comments to you if you want to ask questions about that. But I do want you to know that you have to find your truth. And really the only way to do that is to break things down and then build back up. Now, one of the things that I talk a lot about is supplementation, because as the ingredient guru, I can tell you that we're not getting enough nourishment through our diets. And even if people say, oh, that's just a bunch of who we are, we have the same amount of nutrition in our food as we always have, we also have changes, like the changes that happen with meat that is now being grown in soil that doesn't have the right nutrient complexes anymore from overproduction, over-farming in these big commercial processes. So it's important to know that it's not all the seed that's being planted. It's also where it's being grown. It's also the different kinds of pesticides that maybe are being used. So there's this big complexity, and that's why I always turn to additional supplementation. But you have to also be careful, and that's one of the things I want to talk about today. Today I want to talk a little bit about the omegas, because omegas are a big thing right now. A lot of people buy eggs that have additional omegas. A lot of people, are looking at orange juice with omegas added to it, and, your plant-based milks with extra omegas added to it. And the truth be told, we don't know a lot about the toxicity levels with fish oil. And in fact, there's not been a lot of studies done, but some of the studies they've done, especially with combinations of foods with these high omegas, is that they're seeing that there can be some chronic toxicity that happens in the body if you get too much. And we know this is the same with our probiotics. If you take too many probiotics, and specifically if you're getting, a lot of these probiotics, just like a lot of these shakes, are becoming like we've got, 35 strains of of bacteria, or we've got 78 different kinds of food in here. Well, that can kind of make things more complex. I mean, that's a difference between, so if a product has 12 whole foods in it, but it's the equivalent of eating, say, 40 different plants based on the amount that you're, of nutrition that you're getting. That's a big difference between eating something that has 40 different ingredients in it. And in fact, I'm drinking the Paradise smoothie this morning, getting all of my morning goodness in. And then after this, I will get my workout in. So let's talk about the differences. So we'll start with fish oil. So we know that our oceans are becoming toxic. We are a damaging species. And not all fish oils are created the same. I've added a couple of links to the wall to give you some ideas of different things. Some of you may never even want to go the route of fish oil. You may just want to stick with plants, which is fantastic because plants offer so much in the way of omega-3s. But if you do want to do fish oils, you need to know that fish oils aren't created equal. And some of them are highly processed in a really bad way. Some of them aren't very processed and they're just not very pure. And most of them, if you look on the market and you do some comparisons to fish oils and you look at a lot of the top brands, they aren't getting the third-party testing for their purity. And so I'm really big on making sure that every batch of fish oils that you use, if you're going to use fish oils, has been independently third-party tested. The IFOS is one third-party independent organization that does a lot of this that I really trust. And so they are a foundation that you can really turn to see. And if your brand that you're buying doesn't give you the batch results, well, maybe you shouldn't be buying that brand. Now, if we look at, scientific research, there's a lot out there that's conflicting as far as our omegas go. There's some studies that say that omega-3 fatty acids are not going to help your heart. But there are also amazing studies that, one that I just read about where Italian researchers looked at survivors of a myocardial infarction over 3.5 years, and they had over 11,000 participants, and they had them on supplements of vitamin E, omega-3s, or both, or no supplements whatsoever. And what they found was that this group that got the omega-3s alone experienced significantly lower mortality rates within the first 3 months of the study. They also noticed the risk of sudden death was lowered at 4 months, and that they significantly reduced rates of all causes of death. So I think that that's important to know, that there's research out there going both directions. It depends on what they're using, because we know, like I just said, that not all fish oil is the same. So another thing is that it's, we need these essential fatty acids, and they're not something that we can get just with our body. We have to eat real foods to get this essential fatty acids. And if you look at most of the typical standard American diet, it's overwhelmed with these omega-6 fatty acids. And we're not getting enough of the omega-3s. So then people start pounding away at these omega-3s. And some hypersensitive individuals who are taking high omega-3 supplements and they're eating high omega-3 enriched foods could be getting excessive amounts, and that they could be risks from this. There's also risks associated with some of the high toxins that people might be getting from their fish oils. And so there's some good studies going on right now with Michigan State University. The Canadian Diabetes Association is doing some studies, and they're finding that this excessive amount of omega-3s can actually alter your immune function and lead to a dysfunctional immune response to the viral or bacterial infection. So again, you have to think about the fact that if everything's being fortified with omega-3s, and you're eating these fortified foods, and then you're taking the fish oil supplements, then you could really be putting yourself at risk. Now, let's talk about contaminants in fish. So a lot of fish have the PCBs, and excessive exposure to these substances can cause brain and kidney damage. Developing fetus, infants, young children are really vulnerable to toxic effects from mercury on the brain. And I honestly was one of those people. I did take omegas during my entire pregnancy, and my daughter's been taking omegas her entire life. And I do make sure that she only takes the pure omegas, but she's not getting too much. If we're having a very omega-rich day, then she doesn't need the omega supplements. Also, I'm very careful, because she is a carnivore, that when there is fish, that she is getting fish that was prepared properly, that is safer. We tend to work more from Atlantic fish right now than Pacific fish. And just knowing that the skin, the fat, the internal organs of the fish, they have a lot of those fat-soluble pollutants, because just like us, fat stores toxins. So you want to stay away from the high methylmercury fishes, like golden snapper, king mackerel, swordfish. You don't want to eat the high mercury fish. The lower mercury fish is generally the tuna, salmon, catfish. You want to make sure that you know where it came from. You also want to know, if you're supplementing, that you want those to be free of the PCBs, the dioxins. You want to know how it was refined. You might want to know that the more highly refined and concentrated a fatty acid omega-3 oil is, the lower levels of PCBs there are. There's a lot of really good information out there, but it can be really hard to find. Now, if we actually look at this at a industry-wide and consumptionable market, one thing to remember is that we don't have unlimited availability of the oceans. And that's where plants can come in to take up that slack. But you also have to wonder, with some of the plants that they are starting to use, what is this going to do? So I know that scientists, Harvard was talking about that they found a way to genetically engineer fish oil. Yes, they are GM everywhere. And so they are genetically engineering canola to produce more omega-3s. And I don't think a lot of you are using canola, but how many companies are going to say, well, yes, I want to go ahead and start using this agro-alternative GM canola in my salad dressing, and you think you're eating really healthy, and instead you're getting this GM product that is maybe overloading your omegas. Now, there's a gal who started a company called Bear Biology, and she went ahead and created a product. I'm trying to remember what it was called, but it was a fish oil product. And so it's really interesting. Let's see if I can pull it up. I think it was a tea. So it's interesting where we're starting to see stuff. Okay. Let me see if I can pull this up for you while we're talking. If I can, I can put the no, that one's not it. I'll put the link up if I could find it. It may be after the show. So if we think about it, omegas are going to start showing up more and more, just like probiotics in our food is going to start showing up more and more, because it's right now it is the industry thing to go ahead and supplement into the food to keep people buying the food. There's also an edible omega-3 fatty acid that's going to be made from mint. So that this company has found that vegetarians obviously don't want to take omega-3 fatty acids. And so this organization, they've been able to create this omega mint made out of, mint. I mean, how weird is that? So that's something that I'm really going to be watching. I want to find out what it's like. They're going to be doing it in a soft shell energy capsule. And I think that that's kind of interesting. But would you be doing that as your supplementation? Maybe not. Maybe yes. Hard to tell. So how much of your diet are you getting in omega-3 fatty acids? Now, that's a good question, right? If you are getting farmed fish, then you're generally getting higher omegas. They also contain more fat, including some of the undesirable saturated fat. So that's another reason why to consider maybe going not farmed, but going wild caught, and then knowing where the wild caught is coming from. Fish, egg yolks, if you're getting real pastured eggs, not vegetarian fed, then the omegas that are coming into that are from them running around eating bugs. If you're getting fake sort of cage-free vegetarian fed eggs, then those omega-3s are coming from the vegetarian diet. And so they're also seeing higher omegas. The key omega-3 fatty acids are the EPA and the DHA. The third is ALA. The EPA and the DHA are mostly found in fatty fish. That's where mostly what they're bringing to you in fish oil. The ALA comes from seeds, nuts, and some green vegetables. And your body can convert a small amount, about 8% of the dietary ALA to EPA. So if you're a vegetarian and you're not supplementing, you're not really getting enough. Now, the green vegetables that comes in is Brussels sprout, spinach, kale. If you're eating vegetarian, ALA-rich other foods, that's flax seeds, walnuts, pumpkin seeds. And there is the EPA and the DHA-derived plants from algae. So if you're not getting a lot in your diet as a vegetarian and you're eating not a lot of the craptacular food out there, then yeah, I think that you probably want to supplement. If you are getting a lot in your diet, you might want to rethink some of what you're supplementing. Now, on the idea of superfoods, one of the ones that we're seeing everywhere on Pinterest, on Facebook, is avocado. And in fact, there's some avocado in my Well Plus Joy Reset program. Now, they have really become the staple of everyone's diets. And they really are one of the healthiest forms of fats. But you also have to know, I've talked a lot about the fact that what the toxins that they're spraying on a lot of these avocados are doing to the water table in California. So again, make sure you're going for the sustainable product. Buy from the supplier that is caring for the earth. Avocados have a higher amount of calories. They can count as one of your recommended portions of fruit and vegetables. If you do a whole avocado, you're getting over 300 calories. So you really want to consider that. They are, low in sodium. They have fiber. They're a powerful antioxidant. In laboratory tests, some of the plant sterols that are in the avocado can reduce the growth cells that means they have an action against the inflammation in our body, and we know that most disease comes from inflammation. We know that they can help those with inflammatory issues. It's a good thing for someone like my mom who has the osteoarthritis in her hands. It contains the monounsaturated fatty acids to help lower the bad cholesterol and boost the good cholesterol. And so one study they did, people who ate avocados every day for 3 months dramatically cut their levels of LDL. So avocados are one of those superfoods. Again, fantastic. They do amazing things. They have a compound in it that helps make you feel fuller and curbs hunger pains. So yes, add avocado into your diet, but add the right kind of avocado into your diet. So be very aware that everything can have a good and a bad side to it. Now also, considering all the information coming out there, because a lot of you that follow me are paleo, that they're saying that a vegan diet can really help you live longer if you're ditching the meat. Now, in the studies that they did, they found that eating less protein from animal sources, such as red meat and dairy, and increasing the plant proteins substantially reduced death rates. The mortality from heart disease fell 12%, and death from all causes fell 10% for every 3% increase of calories from plant proteins. In contrast, raising animal protein share of calories by 10% led to an 8% greater chance of dying from heart problems and a 2% higher risk of all-cause of death. And so you may not think that's a lot, but I know a lot of people that really overdo the meat. And so these studies are just small and starting out, and there are some where there was a study that said that substituting eggs for plant protein led to a 19% reduction in death risk. So, we're still trying to sort all of this out. But if you look at the healthiest populations, they're not eating a lot of meat that's processed the way that our meat is processed. And that's another thing to consider. If you are eating pastured meat, it's going to be very different than if you're eating commercial meat. And there's studies out there to back this up. And I'm not saying to not eat whatever option is best for you. If it's easier for you to feed your family by buying a, pound of ground meat that's not $12 for a package, by all means, you have to do what's best for your family, but you have to know that maybe as an alternative, you're going to do a rich vegetable soup or stir fry with it, or as an alternative meal for the next meal. I really think that what we're trying to say is our emphasis in our diet really should be on whole foods, mostly plants, and that we should supplement but not over-supplement. We should consider that supplementation is just that. It's a support tool. And that a healthy diet and movement is the most beneficial thing that you're going to find. And that's the part that I think we just overlook so much. And there are organic foods that you can buy everywhere. You can buy them at your big box stores. If you can get them at your co-op, you can go down to the farmer's market and buy it from your local farmer. It's all out there. And It's all available. So take a start. I'm going to recommend that you clean out your diet, you go totally whole foods, and you do this to really address your whole self. I promise you, if you eliminate all of the refined sugars and the box foods, even for a week, it's going to start off a detox process that's going to emotionally start within you. If you continue on it and redefine your detox as you go along by maybe taking it out a couple of weeks and then slowly adding items in to see what works and what doesn't work, you're going to find that this is a very holistic way to heal your body and your being, and that really we are this interrelated system, mind, body, spirit, and that all comes into the healing. It all comes down to simple changes. We need to stop these trendy diets. We need to eat whole food. We need to make sure that we're drinking enough water. Most of us are probably not drinking more than 1 or 2 glasses of water a day. And to really cleanse your body, you need far more than that. We need to figure out how to manage our stress. What things can we eliminate from our life? What things can we give away, delegate, dump out of our life to manage our stress? And you need to get up and move. We need to quit being carb addicted, but we also need to know that fats, overabundance of fats like ketosis fats, 90% fats, is not for everyone. You have to find your nutritional truth. You need to be aware that consuming more omega-3s is not going to be the be-all, end-all, just like loading up on leafy greens is not great for everyone. So there's surprisingly easy ways to transform your life. I like to start people with, like I said, this sort of detox. Let's get back to some whole foods. Let's move into some good supplementation, and it doesn't have to be expensive. You can go anywhere from the, $19 Whole Foods created multivitamin that's fully methylated and pure and good for you, all the way up to the $75 Whole Foods nutritional supplement, and everywhere in between. And I can guide you and I can share some of those different ideas with you. But there's no right for everyone, and you have to find the option in between. So let's talk about what the options are out there. So first off, in supplementation, the basic products that I generally recommend is a plant protein, and that might be a just plant protein powder, or it might be a plant protein meal replacement, depending on what your goals are. You want it to be gluten-free, you want it to be non-GMO, you want it to be totally plant-based, very healing, very nutritious, easy to absorb through your body. I usually implement getting the nutrients you need through some sort of a supplement, whether that is a Whole Foods capsule or a multivitamin. If you're doing a multivitamin, you want it to have only the nutrition that you want. You don't want it to have any of the weird stuff. You don't want the magnesium stearate in it. You don't want, it to be artificial flavors and colors. You don't want added sugars in it. So, and you want just a nice balance to get enough without overdoing it, because you are going to be eating real foods as well. So that's important. I do like probiotics. Now, not everyone wants to do a probiotic because I think that they're a little bit afraid of probiotics, and I totally get that. But I do think that our microbiome does need some support, not too much. So keep that in mind. You want, again, one that's non-GMO. I recommend dairy-free, gluten-free, grain-free, no added sugars, no added preservatives and colors, and making sure that it's a probiotic that has been tested, that it can survive passage through the stomach acid. Because not all probiotics out there can do this. And so that's important. Sometimes I'll recommend soil-based probiotics for a small amount of time to adjust if somebody's having a lot of issues with their digestive tract. It can kind of help. It's very formulated to kind of ease into that. Also, for somebody that has an overabundance of probiotics, that's something I'll sometimes recommend. You don't want too many good, even just like you don't want too many bad. I don't like too many strains. The one that I generally recommend the most has 4 strains, so that's something to keep in mind. I also like to recommend greens. I like raw green to add into whether you're doing. Some people just do like green juice in the afternoon. I find that raw greens are a little bit easier for me, and you get a little more nutrition. I like raw greens that have the barley and the antioxidants and the chlorella and the spirulina. I also like added seaweed, and I like the one that I really like has some acerola in it, which I started using several years ago because it's just the best source of vitamin C, and also mushrooms, because it's a really great source of B6, and also because there's the mushrooms that have a good source of folate and some fiber. You want, if you're going to do a green blend, you want it to be something that has all of that, but you also want it to be non-GMO. A lot of people, that's a good way to get some extra greens into their kids. You want it to have a nice alkalizing effect and support your immunity. And finding one that isn't full of crap can be really hard. So you do want a company that's actually testing to make sure that they're going ahead and that there isn't a lot of lead and other things in it that you're taking, because there are a lot of these greens that they're just not healthy out there. Just like a lot of these shakes out there are just not healthy. Now, of course, none of the statements that I say on my vlogcast have been evaluated by the FDA, and nothing that I'm saying here is intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease. So make sure that before you do anything to change your diet, that you talk to your general physician and that you work it out with them what's best for you and find your own nutritional truth. So come join me. You can find me online. I have a blog that is paleoveggio.com. I am also Mama Whole Wellness, or my practice is Love Barbara Christensen. And you can find the various Facebook pages that are associated with this. And just remember, surround yourself with like-minded people, because that wellness and energy is contagious. So head on over. I've got some salsa recipes and watermelon recipes out there right now that you may like. Also, through Paleo Veggie, I've got some great recipes on there. I've got the Paleo Veggie. We've got a group of over 1,000 that are doing Whole30 type processes. But I've got a strawberry shortcake mug recipe on the Paleo Veggie. I talked about using my dried mulberries for croutons. There's a recipe for avocado cauliflower. Yes, you're going to love that one, as well as some really good little hemp chocolate bites that you might want to add. So go check those out, and let's connect, and let's see if we can't make one simple change to transform your life this week. So this is Barbara Christensen, and this has been the Barbara Christensen Vlogcast, and I hope you have a fantastic week. Bye-bye.